one thing I did want to ask, because you mentioned when you got your first job, when you went up there and you were getting shot at and you were scared to death, did that ever, I'm sure it doesn't totally subside, but did you get more used to it? And did it become easier to go out after that into these dangerous scenarios? Or was it always just like
it's
fear
never,
at the wazoo?
if anything, it gets worse. If any photographer tells you they're not scared, they're lying. Put it to you this way. I said I wasn't sure if I had any post-traumatic stress. I can tell you that if I hear a car backfire, to this day, I flinch. And not as much as I used to. But after the Tiananmen thing, and I had a lot of things that came back. I mean, I went in during the Cambodian elections. I was almost kidnapped by the Khmer Rouge. And my motorcycle guy saved me. And it wasn't because we ran off in a blaze of glory. It's just that I managed to BS my way out of it, because there were five Khmer Rouge with the Mao hats, you know, the green little, and there were two other photographers, Tim Page and there was Stefan Ellis, who were there, and they were hiding behind a wall because they also wanted to get pictures of the Khmer Rouge. I had two choices. I'm going to hide it as well and probably not get a picture, or I'm just going to go right up to them, smile, shake my hand, say, "Hi, I'm an American. How you doing?" Stupidest thing I ever did in my life. They shook my hand. Can you believe it? The Khmer Rouge shook my hand. And then my motorcycle driver spoke Khmer and he spoke Thai. And he said, "They want your camera and they want you to go with them." Now, previously, two kids were riding on a train. They kidnapped them and they were executed. So I know that's what my fate was. But I said, no, they don't want to bring me anywhere. They want sandals because they were shopping for sandals. Tell them I'll buy them sandals. And these got me. And then a big white truck, probably a UN truck they stole with a big machine gun, came by, and their sergeant or boss or whatever started screaming at them. So they left me and ran off and jumped in the truck and left. And then I got on the motorcycle and I rode the motorcycle back to the Australian camp. And this was in Tamar Puk, I think it was, where they had this base. We had to land the helicopter in a very tight circle. There was an LZ where you had to land exactly to stay out of any gunfire that they could fire. And when I got back to the base where the Australian guys were, it started raining, pouring rain. And I heard gunfire, and I said, "Are we under attack?" And he says, "No, it's Khmer. That they're just shooting at the rain gods." So here comes Tim Page and Stefan Ellis and the motorcycle rider, all three of them, soaking wet and riding towards me. And I said, "You guys get pictures of the Khmer Rouge?" He goes, "You know what? I knew you talked to blanky blinks, you know much." And so I was really kind of hated by a lot of the photographers. And I wasn't really, and one even said I was sabotaging him. For years, I didn't know that every time I went into Cambodia, he was telling his boss that I had been sabotaging, and that's why I was getting in Time Magazine and the Herald Tribune. And he would say, "Widener, why do you keep going out and taking pictures?" I said, "That's my job, man." I mean, like this, and so I had that happen. I had, I just had a lot of situations. But you got to be smart. Like, for example, I did the elections on Benazir Bhutto. I used to go to her home. I was standing in front of her, like literally chatting with her. And the elections were coming up, and there was an AP photographer, and there was a Time Magazine and a Newsweek photographer. When you go to these places back then, you had to transmit the photo over phone lines. The phone line is critical. The quality of the phone line is critical. So what I did is I found a brand new little motel. Just a little like guest house that they had just built. And they had two lines. They had three lines. No, two lines. They had two lines. I booked both the lines. In other words, I paid them extra money for those ones. Nobody can make phone calls out of the building. And the nearest place to file was 40 minutes away to PTT, the post office. So I'm there filing. I got a callback line. "Hey, Jeff here. What's going on?" And transmitting at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And you know how that's important, because you can do two things. That you can file two pictures at once, or they can call you, "Jeff, we got a line break. You got to send it again." And it cuts down on the time. And so what would happen is I would just beat the competition because TV shows come out, like the Nielsen ratings, they tell you what shows did the best, so which were the top. Well, they get play reports in the wire business. So when you cover a story, every bureau chief writes which agency got played in that newspaper. So the perfect example why they hated me is during, I think it was Jimmy Carter's visit to North Korea. No photographer, Western photographer, was allowed to transmit pictures. They had to go back to Seoul to transmit the photograph.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so all of us had to run back to Seoul to transmit the photographs. But here's the thing, when you're an AP photographer, it's not all about photography, it's about the picture. So I went downstairs into our big high-rise building where the Yonhap News Agency was, because they were a member of the AP. They were one of the members. So I went down and talked to the photographer and I said, hey, Yoon, can you do me a favor? I got this nice bottle of scotch for you. If you could just take your images and pipe them down through to AP. So while I was up there, they're transmitting photos that is going directly through the AP feed, and the AP has their logo. It'll say AP or AP Yonhap, but most likely it said just AP because the members, they didn't have to give credit to the members. And so what happened was the next day, I totally annihilated Reuters and AFP because it says AP. It was like unbelievable, like 30-2 to 1 or something. It was ridiculous. And then what happens is their chiefs go and get on their photographers, butts like, what happened? Why did AP has killed you? What happened? And so this is the kind of thing I did because I was thinking as a journalist, a photojournalist, I'm not thinking for my ego that I've got to have a name credit on all the pictures. Mm-hmm. For me, it was all about getting those play reports. Now that may bore everybody, but that was my job.
That's great.
That was my job.
That's right. And I've just listened to your stories about when you were in Cambodia and you went and paid the guest house for both the phone lines, and like anybody else could have done that, but they didn't. Right?
Exactly. And I remember one time I don't think the photographer's lied. I think he was a Newsweek photographer. And it was in Phnom Penh, and it was an amazing trip. It was 1988 when the Vietnamese were pulling out of Cambodia. And they were doing the whole thing, with flags and children and celebrating that they were pulling out. They were still there, But anyway, so you had all these photographers and journalists from all over the world. I'm talking about NBC, ABC. There were female journalists, male journalists. There was a mass of reporters, and they were going to take us all to the guest house, where the Army guest house, where the Army guys stayed. So we get there, and this base is a rundown, absolutely demolished shithole, and everybody starts opening doors to the rooms, and all you hear was women going, oh my God. There was like mattresses with big holes and blood stains in the middle of it. There were rats, and we kept opening doors, and even the guys were going, oh. I was running to every door, opening, and I circled all the way around to the last door, and I opened the door, and there's a blast of air conditioning, a rotating fan, clean, complete netting, no hose, and a French photographer. And I'm going, oh, shit. Because the French, I could tell a whole story about French photographers. But we'll leave that. I don't want them coming down on me. But I will tell you, if you need to get a picture, send a French photographer. They will sell their grandmother to get the picture. I can tell you. They will come back with a picture. Okay? If I was a photo editor, I would hire the French every time. So I had to go to the guy and all of a sudden get very humble. Like when a dog isn't as big as the other wolf or something, he approaches and you kind of go down in a humbling bow, like to be subservient to the wolf. It's exactly what I did. I said, hi, do you mind if I share your room? And there's this pause, and he looks at me and he goes, well, I guess it is okay. I was so relieved. I have no idea what these other journalists did, because there's no way you could go in those rooms. There's no way.
Yeah.
There was nothing else. It was a Battenbong. There's no way. I've got pictures of Battenbong on my. You got to look at it from the air. It's an aerial shot. You can see what I was talking about.
Is this on your website?
It should be. It should be. I'm not sure where it's going to be. It might be under Cambodia, if there's a Cambodia, or it's going to be under, I don't know. I haven't looked at my website in a long time. I got to update it. I mean, the stories I can tell are just amazing. That's why maybe I should do a book. How many people